Good morning and welcome to the show. We're waking up with our friends at Marine Max with the manager's special of the week. John, what have we got?
Well, we have a beautiful 16-foot Scarab jet boat, and Eric Davis is going to tell you all about it.
Well, thanks so much. Eric, tell me a little bit about
John,
this boat.
Good morning. Well, we're excited to have the Scarab line. Got it started last year, and this 16-foot boat is a great way to take a small family or a small group of people, go out and have a lot of fun on the water. It will take 5 people in it, and you can also got enough room for a cooler to stretch out for a day at Shell Island, run around the bay.
You know, as the name implies, jet boat, this may be fast. It even looks fast.
It is fast. It's got a Rotax engine, and this particular model has 150 horsepower. Wow. So it will get everybody up and going, whether you want to tube or ski or just run around the bay. This is a great boat to do that.
150 horsepower
That's
in this
right.
little boat.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel. Now, if we can take a look in here, I mean,
Sure.
these seats look super comfortable. They almost look like race car driver seats.
Well,
you know?
exactly. They
Yeah.
are, and it'll sit you back in the seat really well when you take off.
Yeah, I bet.
Each individual seat like that gives you a little more security. There are plenty of grab handles around.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because of the performance, you can keep yourself in the boat and really roll out and have a great time.
Yeah, and I really like the controls and the wheel. It's just, it almost looks like a race car.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a very sporty design, and eventually you'll probably see certain charter companies starting to run trips on these type of boats because the whole family can be together and sit side by side, have conversations, and run all over the place.
So you can zip around in the bay or even out on the Gulf, I guess.
Sure. What's really great about it is the overall weight of this package. Most of the smaller RVs that people tend to have now can pull this with no problem.
Oh, really?
It still
Okay.
falls within their weight capacity, their towing capacity. This whole package full of fuel is roughly around 2,400 pounds. So a lot of those smaller RVs can tow it, and it'll fit in just about any garage or even some of these larger storage facilities. For people that live out of town, they can just keep it down here rather than trailering it back and forth.
It is a great size. I mean, it is. It's something you can pull behind a family SUV.
Absolutely.
You got a great little trailer. It'll fit in your garage, too.
Absolutely.
You don't have to make your neighbors mad by putting this thing out in your
That's
driveway.
right. That's right. Absolutely.
And do many families go for these type boats?
Well, they do. We're starting to see a bigger trend towards the jet product. The main reason is people with younger children look for the jet because there's no propeller to turn. They see it as an added level of safety. And with that, when you're at Shell Island, this boat is really featured nice with 2 of these aft-facing seats. And of course, you have cup holders. People can jump off, swim around this boat, and it just is a really nice all-around package.
That's right, and you can sit a few people. You don't just have to go fast, because I noticed you've got cup holders too, so you can just hang
Absolutely.
out on this thing for a while.
That's
and have a really good
exactly
time.
what these are for. Absolutely.
Wow, and what are some of the other features of this boat that we may not be seeing here?
Well, one of the nice things historically, jet boats, when you crank the engine, you're moving forward. And what Scarab has done to address that, it sometimes makes it difficult to handle around a dock, certain marinas. And the Scarab jet boat has some interesting technology in the jet itself that allows you to steer that boat, and it has a true neutral. So at idle, you can maneuver that boat, and for some people, they're much easier to drive than even the standard propulsion and outboard boats.
What do you mean by a true neutral? Are jet boats always moving forward?
Well, like a jet ski, most people are aware that when a jet ski is running, you're moving in one direction or the other, forward or reverse. And some of them have some clever ways to vector that thrust. Scarab has done the same thing, but there's a balancing act within a cast aluminum plate here on the back of the jet that will allow that thrust to negate itself. It moves neither forward nor backward, sitting in one place.
So you could actually, stay in one place. I mean, if you just wanted to stop and enjoy the view for a few minutes,
Sure.
it takes the hassle out of trying to,
Right. Well, and if you're picking up a skier, you
Yeah.
come up to the skier rather than having to shut the motor off. Again, we don't have any propeller, very safe, and it'll allow you to idle up and sit, pull the skier aboard, and on to the next person.
Eric, thanks so much for showing me this
Sure,
Scarab.
Don.
It's just it's a beautiful little boat, and I think a little family might do well to have this under the tree for Christmas.
I agree.
Thanks a lot. We got to run off to the local weather, and we'll be right back after the weather. Brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Tara Griffin at Emerald Coast Dental Sleep Medicine, right out here on Panama City Beach. Dr. Griffin, thanks for letting us behind the scenes here again today. I know we talked a lot about TMJ.
Yes.
And you had mentioned something about a laser that you have here to treat TMJ. Before we talk about the laser, Can you briefly describe what TMJ is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when patients have, often they have pain or clicking, popping in the joints, and it's very uncomfortable for them.
What causes that? Is that
Different things can cause it. Everything from an imbalance in the muscles, imbalance in the joints, underdevelopment in the middle part of the face, stress,
maybe an injury?
injuries, absolutely.
Maybe
Yeah.
in a car wreck or
Yeah,
something? Who
certainly
knows?
that can aggravate things, definitely.
So how do you typically fix that? I mean, if your jaw is out of joint, I don't know if that's a medical term or not, but
Yeah, it can be. It can be like dislocated, things like that can happen, especially after you said wrecks, injuries, and whatnot. But what we do is we look to see what the diagnosis is, you know, what we can do to try to resolve it. And sometimes it might be a splint, a night guard, something like that for
just
the
to
patients
kind of get the
use.
jaw back in alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. To take the teeth out of the equation, you know, allow the jaw to be in a good position. And often we use our laser in combination with that type of treatment.
So what exactly does a laser do? So you've got the jaw back in position, but maybe the muscles that holding that in place are kind of out of.
Yeah, absolutely. So it
Out of
helps
place.
to reduce pain and inflammation. Anywhere in the head and neck is where we use it, and that's what it's doing. It's working at a cellular level to target those specific things. And so when the muscle is tight or tense, overworked, out of place, it helps to neutralize it, basically.
So how does that work? Well, I see you've got one right there.
Yes, we
but
do.
Just by coincidence, you happen to have one here. But how does it actually work? I mean, you had mentioned before we started shooting that there were 2 wavelengths in this laser.
Yeah, there are. There are 2 different types of wavelengths. One, again, that's specifically treating pain, and one that's treating inflammation. And so, therefore, it makes it very effective. There's also a continuous and a pulse wave that's coming out of it. So it's different than most other lasers, and it makes it extremely effective in reducing, you know, the pain and the inflammation.
So you would take that and you would actually apply that to
Yeah,
a patient's
absolutely.
jaw or head or.
Certainly, you just rub it over the muscle, the back of the neck here, the shoulders, you know, anywhere. Patients that have migraines, that's another good thing to be able to treat with this. So there's no pain associated with it. It's very comfortable, and we actually ask patients when they come in and before we treat them what pain level they have at that time, and you know, anywhere from 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst pain they could ever imagine, and 1, you know, hardly anything. And typically, after a few minutes of getting this treatment done, their pain will be reduced in half immediately.
So if I have TMJ or I have an issue with the way my jaw is feeling, and you decide that that's the best therapy for me, how often do I have to do this?
Well, it depends on the severity of your problem, but it could be a series of treatments, maybe coming in 2 to 3 times a week for 2, maybe 3 weeks. Just depends on the problem that you have. And typically after a few visits, the pain is reduced, if not eliminated, and in most cases it actually doesn't even reoccur. If we can get to the root cause of the problem, and again use a splint or a guard, something to help balance everything out while we're doing this, the body can actually help to recover and repair itself.
And you could be fixed forever.
You could be,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's the goal. That's what we shoot for.
Yeah.
Not every case we can guarantee that. However, we have seen the results that this can provide, and so that has made the treatment just that much better for patients.
Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. So if I have problems sleeping due to TMJ, and maybe I want to avail myself of that laser therapy, or maybe just get your opinion on whether or not I need it, all I need to do is stop in here or give you guys a call at 249-9331.
Yes.
Dr. Tara Griffin, thanks so much for explaining the laser therapy and TMJ to us. And if you're not sleeping well, come on out to Emerald Coast Dental Sleep Medicine out on Panama City Beach. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Have you ever turned on your car's AC system and got blasted by a foul, stinchy locker room smell? If you have, here's what's going on, and here's what it's going to take care of the problem. Think back to when rooms were cooled by window AC units. If you walked around to the back of the house, to the back of the AC, you saw water dripping down from the back of the AC unit. That water is AC condensation coming from the evaporator core of the AC. In your car, it's no different. There's an evaporator core located inside the dash of your vehicle, inside an evaporator core box. Condensation forms around the evaporated core, collects in the bottom of the box, and escapes through a drain tube located at the bottom of the vehicle. The locker room stench you get is when that water cannot escape from your car. If this happens to you, there are only two ways to really take care of this. First, get the car on a lift, raise it up, find the drain tube to either blow air, compressed air back up into the drain tube, or find an object that you can clear the drain tube with. Clear out the debris, water should run out. It's more of a professional way of doing things. You have to physically remove the evaporator core, physically remove the evaporator core box, clean the evaporator core box, clean out the drain tube, and then reinstall. Do all these steps, and that stinky locker room smell will be gone. I'm David Lovett, and this has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247, and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital, here to give us our pet health tip of the week. But it's really not a pet health tip, it's more of career advice this time around.
Professional, aspect of it.
You know, every kid, I think, and a lot of girls, for some reason, want to be veterinarians.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you like dogs, if you like cats, if you like horses, you want to be a vet.
Yeah, and that's probably the most common question that I get asked. Like, what made you want to be a vet? Is it because you loved animals, Which is always the case, It's like, nah, I hated them.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, it has to start there, right?
Yeah, you got to have that quality, I suppose.
But, and then probably 90 out of 100 people who tell me that they wanted to be a vet but they couldn't, was because they couldn't put an animal to sleep. And so and there is that aspect of it, but I mean there's so much more that goes into it.
Sure.
One of the things I think people need to realize about it is that it's not just about giving them shots and examining them. I mean, it's education to the public, to the owner, because through the owner is how you really take care of the pet. Like I always say, I've never had a dog or a cat drive themselves to my clinic.
That's right.
So a lot of it is communication with the owner, and educating them on what's going on. Just as far as everything in veterinary medicine. And you certainly have to be very compassionate, but you also have to be pretty stoic, because I mean the hours can be pretty grueling. It can be not only mentally demanding, but physically demanding too. You got to, getting up and down and carrying big animals, and and working long hours. So those are things that people have to consider.
You still have to have that clinical mindset. I mean, there are times. I mean, you obviously have had to put dogs down.
Well, you do, and I think at the beginning it really bothers you more, but fortunately the body learns to condition.
Right.
Just like I've talked to many people who, be in a military area, medics who have had to, run through fields, get over bodies to get to the one that's still alive. And
sure.
after a while,
it's part of the job.
Right.
But you do it in such a humane way. And
absolutely. I mean, you have to be very compassionate. You should be very compassionate. Understand that's still a life, and there's a family that's attached to it. But there's other things too, like as far as the grades that you have to get into veterinary school.
Yeah, it's one thing to love animals. It's another thing to, become a
you
doctor of veterinary medicine.
Your grades in high school don't really dictate, whether you go to veterinary school. They really dictate where you go to college. Your college grades would dictate whether you get in veterinary school. So you're competing against at least 5 to 10 other people for one spot. So your grades have to be good, but your knowledge of the field, and how much experience maybe you've had before you got there, play a part. So most people have to have a degree before they apply to vet school. So that's 4 years.
And what should that degree be in?
Well, usually most colleges will have prerequisites to get into the vet school.
So I guess
usually
heavy in biology,
animal science, something like that, and then then you can apply to vet school. And that type of application shouldn't be done very casually, because you're going to get so many people. You need good grades, and there are some colleges that'll take people who have only been in undergrad for 2 or 3 years, but that's certainly very much the minority. So, and then once you get to school, it's pretty grueling. I mean, I remember our first semester, we had like 20 hours, and then like in your 4th year, they don't even do hours. It's just straight full-time job almost.
I would imagine it's pretty competitive too.
Yeah, it's real
to get into
competitive
med
to get
school.
in. I mean, there's only 26 or so in the States, and there's a few, that are in the islands. But, so you have to have that. You have to be compassionate. And you have to understand that you're going to be on call. And those hours. But there's things that are good about it too. Like you could get the pet better. And you to see the owner. To have their pet back, that love that you see, that you help.
People are crazy about their animals. I'm sure I'm not telling you anything. I know I see how my wife is with our little dog, and people just become very attached to them, and making them better is like the most important thing.
And that's probably one of the biggest advantages. One of the disadvantages is that sometimes with all the knowledge, with all the resources that you have, you still can't help them. What
advice, and in a few seconds we have left, what advice would you give a young person who may be watching this, who's considering a career in being a veteran?
Well, make sure that you like to study, because even though you get out of vet school, medicine's forever changing. So you're reading, often, if not daily. You have to go on to seminars for continuing education.
So you never know it all.
No, you never know. In fact, the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. So it's one of those things. If you're not, if you don't like to study, if you're not, one of those likes to read, then you may not be as happy as you thought you would.
Yeah. Dr. Stephen Favaloro, thank you for that sound advice.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you in a few minutes after these messages. Welcome back to the show. We're here with our friend Marty Howell from Bay County Animal Services, and he brought his friend Linda in today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome back, and welcome, Linda. Hi, puppy. Now she is just a really lovable dog.
Absolutely.
A little on the timid side,
Right.
perhaps, but just a sweet dog. What is her story?
Well, she was actually an owner surrender.
Besides her liking to lick my hand.
So she actually had a previous owner that we know of, so we have a little history on her. She's a dachshund mix. She's definitely an inside dog. She's she goes outside to take care of her business, but then as soon as she's done, she's ready to come back in.
She's housebroken already.
Yep.
That's a huge plus when you're adopting a dog.
Yeah. So if you have an apartment or a townhome, or you have just limited space out, space outside, she's happy to be inside. Like I said, goes out, takes care of her business, and she's ready to come back inside.
Yeah.
So.
And now, of course, she has everything that you give to all the dogs out there.
Correct.
Bay County Animal Services include all of her shots. She's been spayed or neutered, rather.
Yes, she's been spayed. Spayed, microchip, has all her basic shots. She's been heartworm tested, so we know she's good there. So again, for $25, a bag of dog food, a couple bowls, and Linda's ready to go home.
I know, and she's a totally healthy, lovable dog.
Absolutely.
And there's no reason. Now, you had mentioned she's an owner surrender.
Yes.
Why would someone surrender their animal?
There's a number of different scenarios. I think often we might get where people's housing situation may change, where you went from a house to maybe an apartment where they don't allow animals. It could be a situation where if you're getting deployed or sent overseas, sometimes the quarantine periods to go overseas can be very extensive, which is very hard on an animal.
Well, I could see that. Yeah, a military member gets deployed and they've got this animal and they got to go in quarantine.
You're going over to England and they've got a 6-month quarantine period or something like that, and again, it's very expensive and it's very hard on the animal. So a lot of times they feel it's best to bring them to try and get them home here locally.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Or the service member gets deployed and the family stays behind, and they're like, geez, now I got to take care of this dog too.
And the spouse that stays home, be it male or female, they've already got kids to deal with, and an animal just is kind of putting a little over the edge, and they got to kind of downsize a little bit.
Here, honey, here's a new dog to protect you while I'm gone. I mean, that's awful. But it's around the holiday season and people are giving gifts. Is it a good idea to give a pet as a gift?
If you're mom and dad, you can give your child, an animal. I think it's a great idea. Because a lot of times mom and dad are the ones who end up taking care of it anyways.
Yeah.
But friend to friend, you may want to talk to that friend first. They may have a different idea of of what they'd like for Christmas.
Yeah, because it always kind of amazed me when you see animals given as gifts, and sometimes the receiver of that gift isn't always appreciative,
Right.
and they may not be all that into taking care of the animals.
And it's not like going back to Target where you return and get your money back. You know,
Yeah.
we're dealing with with a living being here, and
Yeah.
going to a home and back to shelter is kind of hard on the animals. So you want to make sure that it's a permanent move.
Yeah, certainly do. So don't give chicks at Easter either, because they turn into chickens.
Yes,
Unless you
absolutely.
live on a farm, it's not an appropriate gift. But
Right.
certainly, this would be a great gift for your family and for your kids if you're looking for a lovable dog.
Especially if especially if you have limited outdoor space, because Linda loves being inside.
If somebody wants to meet Linda, what do they have to do?
Just they can either go to our website, see her picture on there. They can come down to the kennel. If they have another dog, they can bring their dog with. We just ask that you bring 2 adults, one to hold each animal, make sure that they get along okay. And it's always nice for them to meet on neutral ground. You don't take the new dog home, put him inside your house where there's a dog that's been living there for a while, because that's its territory.
And you can see Linda on the website too, right?
Absolutely, which is baycountyfl.gov, and we've got all our adoptable animals that are actually on that website.
Marty Howell, thanks so much for bringing Linda in. Thank you for the work you do with our animal friends out there at Bay County Animal Services.
Well, thanks for having us.
All right. Well, so if you want to adopt Linda, go out there, check it out. We'll see you next time.